In this video, I will show you exactly how you can scale your coaching business through bottleneck analysis and database scaling. I will reveal the main key metrics that you should currently be hitting with a VSL funnel, with a webinar funnel for cold and warm traffic. I will show you why most of the people talking about metrics are completely bullshitting you, okay? And I will show you exactly how we've managed to generate over $440,000 for our clients in the coaching and high ticket niche in the last 3 to 4 months, mainly through database scaling, because we looked at what went wrong in our campaigns. We also failed. We looked at what went wrong, okay, and improved the bottlenecks, solved the bottlenecks, and scaled from there. And all the knowledge that I've acquired over this period of time will be shared in this exact video, okay? So without further talk, let's dive right in. So first of all, I want to make one thing very, very sure and very, very clear. There are so many people talking about data, right, that have absolutely no idea. And I see it because when I'm watching videos online from a lot of other operators, they're talking about 80% close rates or 40% booked rates or 90% show up rates. And this is the biggest, 80% close rates is just not possible, and it's just a blind lie, okay? You can have the warmest traffic in the world, okay? Then it's maybe possible, but you have to mention this. And so many people think, okay, I'm not hitting an 80% close rate. I'm not, what am I doing wrong? Nothing. Normal close rate is around 20%, okay? So I still remember when I first stepped into this place, I was so desperate looking for real data and real KPIs that I can really that are real, okay, and that actually make sense, and that I can use them as an orientation to see what's going wrong. But there's so much misinformation in this space, okay? This is why I'm making this video, by the way. Now, forget all this bullshit over here, okay? Forget all this bullshit. Everyone telling you this is straight up lying to you and has absolutely no idea what they're doing, okay? And there are a lot of people, I would say even more than 90% in this space. So basically, for warm VSL, we want to start warm VSL. They come either from your YouTube, from your Instagram, from your LinkedIn, from your email, whatever. We want to start with the click-through rate, because obviously your post will get impressions, it will get reach. Now, not everyone who sees the post will actually click on the link or trigger the managed chat automation. So what we see generally for warm traffic is a click-through rate of something like 2 to 5%, obviously depending on the strength of your organic traffic, depending on how much you're posting, how valuable your content is, and this could be via email and via YouTube. 2 to 5%. If not, you know that your content could be better, or your creative or your content is already fatiguing and you want to add new fresh angles to your emails and to your YouTube. This is the click-through rate, okay? Very, very common thing. Nobody's talking about it. Very important. Also for organic content, should be anything between 2 to 5%, meaning when you put a link in your video description or when you put a link in your email, you want 2 to 5% of the people clicking on there. Now, out of these people, they then hit our something like, they click on this video and hit our VSL page, okay, where we have our video on there with our VSL funnel. Now, let's say 100 people hit this VSL page. What we generally see is a 2 to 5% booked call rate. For warm traffic, I would say it can even be a 5% booked call rate. You want to make sure, if it's a warm traffic, yeah, 5% makes a lot of sense. So let's say 100 people hit your page, 5% book, so 5 people actually book a call. This implies that you actually have something like an application process on this page, okay? You don't want to drop the booking link there open, because this will get a lot of unqualified leads hit your pixel if you're optimizing with ads. Okay, this is a warm funnel, but basically have a lot of unqualified leads in your closed calendar, and they won't be happy with this, okay? So book call rate something like 5%, show up rates on the calls for warm traffic, and again, this is warm. Why am I saying this so much? Because for cold, the rates will look a bit different, okay? Look, for show up, we want to have 65 to 85%. Ideally, really with warm traffic, you want to be hitting the 70-80% show up rates. And closed rate should be anything between 25 to 35%. It could even be 40%, but this really depends on the quality of your warm traffic. Now, keep in mind, when you're launching the first time when you're launching, okay, the first time with a webinar or with a VSL funnel, your rates will be way, 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 way higher because you will have the highest intent leads in there. But I'm talking about consistently generating money, not about one record month. I'm talking about consistently running a warm VSL. Now, let's compare this to a cold VSL, okay, where you're running ads to your VSL page. How would the rates look like there, okay? And then I will show you exactly what to fix in any stage of the journey, either for a warm or for a cold VSL. Now for a cold VSL, you want to have click-through rates on your ads anything between, and now this would obviously be for ads, anything between 2%, okay? If your ads have a click-through rate over 2%, this would be perfect, 2%. Now your booked call rate for cold VSL should be anything like 3%, okay? Your show up rate, ideally 70%, 60 to 70%, and your close rate, generally something between 20 to 25%. So you can see our numbers are already lower, and this highly depends. Like, these are really the numbers if you do everything right with your ads. Now, compared to this, we have something that we call cost per call, okay? Now, our cost per call is how much we are paying for a call. You shouldn't fully optimize on this cost per call thing, because what you actually want to optimize for is your cost per acquired customer, which should generally be something like 1K, okay? Assuming you're selling a 5K offer, assuming you're selling a 5K or 10K offer, your cost per acquired customer should be something like 1 to 2K, meaning you can still run very profitable on 3x ROAS, more or less, if you're selling a 5 or 6K offer, okay? Now, why do we want to optimize for cost per acquired customer? Because we could be booking calls for at least, for even $600, okay? We could be booking calls for $600, but if out of these calls, leads are very, very, very high quality, 90% of them show up or whatever, because it's a very high lead quality, okay? And then basically, yeah, nearly every one of them closes. Then we will, and these leads give us like something like a $40,000 value because they are B2B leads. Then obviously a $600 cost per call is fine, okay? So don't get triggered away by these metrics. You really want to know, what you actually want to know is how much am I spending to acquire a customer. So this would be after booking a call, after him showing up, after closing. So this would be after call is booked, after obviously clicked, right? After he clicked, after he booked, after he showed up, after he closed. How much am I paying for this entire step of the journey, okay? So cost per acquired customer, this is what you want to optimize for. Now, what we generally see in the info niche, and if you're in the BizOp niche, what probably most of you guys are, then I can still give you a quite good metric for a cost per call if you're selling anything between 5,000 to 10K, and you're doing something like a BizOp offer, how to scale your AI app business, how to scale your Amazon business, how to scale your marketing business, how to scale your sales business, whatever, how to be a better closer. You want to have a cost per qualified call, very important, okay? Because we only report qualified calls back to Meta, okay? We have something like a conditional logic where anyone who has more than 5K to invest will be here, will be pixeled. Anyone who has less than 5K to invest will be here. He will still be able to book in a call, but it won't be qualified. So your cost per qualified call should be anything between $100 to $300. This is what we see generally work pretty well for VSL funnels with the normal metrics, okay? Now, then the next thing obviously is your CPMs. So your CPMs is how much you pay to get in front of 1,000 eyeballs, okay? So how much you pay to get 1,000 impressions. I'm paying, my CPM tells me how expensive is it to get in front of 1,000 eyeballs, okay? Your CPMs determine how expensive the market is that you're advertising in and how cooked your ad account is, okay? And especially the CPMs, what I've seen in the past, depend a lot on your messaging. So if you go with, we can think about hooks, right? If my hook is something like, Amazon paid out over $1 billion to resellers in the last year. I'm going with a very, very, very broad hook, okay? Now compared to, I could go with a hook something like, if you're already an Amazon seller and you currently, buying from supplier number A, and you're buying this and this product, now listen up, I can show you how you can scale. Very minority would obviously be this hook, right? Meaning there are less people in there, meaning that basically the supply of people is less, the demand is higher, so I would be paying way higher CPMs for this minority hooks. And this is what a lot of people don't understand. When you go with a majority hooks, your CPMs will be lower, okay? Now, your CPMs should generally be something between 50 is fine, okay? $50. Can be higher, can be even up to 80, 90, depends. It really, like what you really want to make sure, what's literally the most important thing, if we're talking about cold, is your ROAS. If you're still profitable, I don't care about your CPMs. I don't care about your cost per leads. I don't care about your cost per qualified call. It depends if you're profitable, okay? But like essentially when you're not profitable or you're looking for ways to scale and you see your CPMs or something like 150, this is the main problem, okay? You want to introduce cost caps or basically, I'm talking a lot about cost caps on my channel as well, or go with a broader messaging. Now, your cost per lead, a cost per qualified call, we've got actually everything that you need to be aware of right now with a VSL file. Now, let me show you exactly what to fix. So let's say, again, our cost per millis are too high. What do you want to do? What I was just talking about? We want to go with a broader messaging. We want to introduce cost cap structures where you say, okay, only book me a call if it's around $150 to avoid fishing in too expensive markets. Or we want to scale our spend down a bit, decrease our spend to signal Meta, I'm not okay with you increasing my CPMs. I want lower CPMs. Meta understands this actually, okay? Now, if your click-through rate on ads is around, let's say, 1%, what do you want to do? Better creative. If your booked call rate is around 1%, what do you want to do? Better VSL, better headline, okay? Remove some questions in the Typeform application process. Remove the friction. You want to reduce the friction that it takes for a customer to hit this page, and you want to sell better on the overall sales page through a better headline, through a better VSL, through better messaging, through messaging congruency. So basically, your front-end messaging on the ads and your overall messaging on the actual VSL needs to align with each other. Otherwise, people will drop off. Another thing, if your show-up rate is something like 50%, what do you want to do? You can do so much stuff. You can implement email flows, something like 15 to 20 email flows. You can check your domain deliverability if you're sending them from a domain which actually is healthy. You can then check hammer ads, so you want to implement around 25 to 35 short form hammer ads that you're using to hammer leads who booked a call to make them show up through objection handling assets. We generally do something like the 4 quadrants of content over here. First layer questions, second layer questions, then over here objections and expectations, okay, that you want to handle in your content. You want to have long form content piece that you send them, include sales assets, gamma boards. I want to make sure you have you're sending blue tags as well, or you're sending tags in general. Your setters are reaching out within the first 10 to 15 minutes after a call was booked, and your closer also is reaching out via iMessage, via WhatsApp. They are added to a WhatsApp group with the closer. The closer sends selfie video, something like, "Hey Joe, this is Jonathan. I'm looking forward for a call. By the way, I saw you were just working as a lawyer right now in Detroit. Look, basically, we've got one of our students who has also been a lawyer, and I think he also comes from kind of Detroit, from this region, and he just managed to scale his business to around 20K a month through the exact systems that we're going to show you on the call. So feel free to check out his testimonial. I really think it would help for you, all right? Basically, stuff like that will increase your sharp rates. If your close rate is anything below 20%, you want to, first of all, problem might be lead quality, okay? You want to make sure, is it really the lead quality? You want to watch the calls yourself, but a lot of the times closers are bitching about lead quality, even though their skill is mostly the main problem. So maybe hire better closers or be on top of your closers through stuff like EOD reports, okay? And these are stuff that only gets laid out and open based on your bottleneck analysis. If you're not doing it, you will never know. Now look, basically the next thing is our VSL funnel, our webinar funnel. And with a webinar funnel, we want to have a, let's look at a warm webinar first. So first of all, webinar funnel, what do we have? Yes, we have a click-through rate. We already talked about this. We have our opt-in rate, basically our registration rate, our landing page conversion rate. Then we have our overall show up rate to the webinar, right? How many people who registered actually show up. Then we have our webinar retention rate, how many people stay until the pitch. Then we have our booked call rate, and then we have again our show up rate and our close rate. Let me just make this real quick over here. This is not that important. What's very important here is the opt-in rate. This is your overall landing page conversion rate, and it should generally be, for a warm webinar, it should generally be up to 40%, right? It must be higher than around 40% for a completely warm webinar. Your show up rate on warm webinars should be something like 60%. We've literally seen 60% show up rate. It can be something like 40 to 60%. It really depends on if it's your first webinar, if you're running these webinars consistently, but especially for first launches, without anything, without a good domain, without hammerdems, without SMS, we saw a 60% show up rate on a webinar. Absolutely insane. Retention rate, so how many people actually stay until the pitch. Ideally something between 70 to 85%. We are continuously seeing 85% retention rates. Book call rates on webinars should be something like, for warm, we're talking about a warm webinar, right? So for warm webinar, it should be something like 15% plus. Show up rates, again, can be like, these leads are even warmer. This could be something like 80% even show up rates to the calls, and close rate something like 30%. Like webinars, if it's your first webinar, they put everything so much on steroids. Now let me talk about cold webinars real quick. So for cold webinars, you generally have an opt-in rate of something between 30 to 40%. Where you want to know you're fine, we generally at something like 35. Show up rate, this is such a main crucial thing for cold webinars. You cannot believe it, right? Like for cold webinars, show up rates is one of the biggest killers, and this is where we are investing most of our time in, to be completely honest. Show up rate, anything between 20 to 40 is possible. We never had 40, we had 38% on cold webinars. However, I know a guy, one of my friends is hitting 40% show up rates without even having them. I don't know how he's doing it. Retention rate should be anything, again, between 70 to 85%. Booked call rate is slightly lower, something like 10 to 15. We are seeing 15% booked call rates on our webinars. Show up rate to the calls will then be lower, something like 60 to 75 because they're called. And close rate also a bit lower, something like 20%. Okay, now look, basically another key metric that you have over here, we don't have a cost per qualified call, but what we have is a cost per registration. We want to optimize for the complete registration event, and the cost per complete registration, it really depends on your lead quality. So what we're doing right now is we have ads, and I think I already uploaded a video about this on my channel, where we say something like, if you've got at least 5K to invest in inventory, I can show you how to build a profitable Amazon business, right? So with these ads, we are attracting way higher quality leads, meaning we are paying more for these leads, okay? So our cost per results, or cost per complete registration is higher. But what you generally want to see as a good cost per registration, we were seeing even $4 cost per leads, okay? But these leads weren't higher quality necessary, okay? So what you want to see cost per registration is anything between $4 to $15. It can be higher, but if it's way higher, you want to make sure you fix something, okay? $4 to $15 is something very normal. Then we have our cost per millis, exact same thing, okay, to be completely honest with you guys. And opt-in rate also something to 30 to 40%. What you can also then look rate is something like your landing page load rate. So this would be your landing page reviews divided through your overall clicks on your ads. This way you can see this in Meta Ads Manager, or ask your current developer to give you this information. This way you can see how fast your landing page loads because there's a drop off, and helps you again, see where some bottlenecks are. If, for example, your cost per complete registration is 18%, you can look at your landing page load rate. If your landing page load rate is anything up to 90%, it isn't a problem. Now, then you want to look at your opt-in rate, and when the opt-in rate, for example, is just 25% on there, then your opt-in rate is the main reason why your cost per registration is so high, right? But if the opt-in rate is fine, and the opt-in rate is something like, and by the way, you improve the opt-in rate through stuff like better headline, better remove VSLs, more urgency, bigger button, better layout, better design, more minimalistic as well. We go with very minimalistic design, don't want to make it too fancy. If the opt-in rate is fine, it's something like 30%, then you want to look at your click-through rate. And if your click-through rate is something like 1%, then you know your click-through rate is your main problem. If your click-through rate is fine, but your CPMs are 80, 90, the CPMs are the main problem, okay? And then you obviously want to decrease spend a bit, you want to introduce cost caps, and so on, come up with new angles for more creative diversity. Now, if the show-up rate is cooked, again, something like a 20% show-up rate would be cooked. It's the very exact same thing for the VSL funnel. We want to introduce WhatsApp nurturing groups, for example. We want to introduce hammer them ads, email sequences, text reminders. Retention rate, if your retention rate is something like below 60% or so, I would highly encourage you to improve your overall webinar presentation and make sure the people that you attract with the ads actually align with those that you're talking to on the webinar. So the messaging needs to be aligned. You can't attract beginners with your ads and then talk to advanced people, to advanced sellers, for example, for an Amazon offer. Book call rate, again, if it's low, your offer needs to be better. You need to share more value. Your webinar needs to be better. Show-up rate, again, exact same thing. And close rate can be lead quality or can be overall your closers as well. Or even close rate also depends on your pre-call nurturing process, okay? So this is basically every single thing that you need to be aware of. And again, the most important thing for cold webinars is your ROAS. If your ROAS is something like above 3, if you're getting a 3x ROAS consistently, you have no reason to change anything. You can still be better, obviously. You can add 4, 5, 6x ROAS, but you're scaling consistently and you're scaling through more spend. However, when you're stacking on more spend, bottlenecks will become more obvious, okay? Because generally CPMs go a bit up and everything gets a bit more difficult. But this is exactly how you scale based on data. And this is what helped us generate more than $440,000 for our clients. All the proof is on my YouTube channel. Now, obviously, improving these bottlenecks is a continuous task of hard work, okay? And this is exactly what we're doing weekly for our clients with reports where we look at exactly, we leverage something like AI tools to give us this data analysis pretty concise and fast, faster than us going through everything manually. And then we, based on that, script new ad creatives. We implement hammer them ads. We buy a new domain. We implement SendBlue, for example, to send blue text. We script new ads. We improve the webinar. We improve the overall landing page. And this is exactly what we do to scale our clients to this results. It's all based on data, okay? It's all based on making decisions based on data. And if you want the exact same thing for you as well, okay? If you really want to us help you with what you're currently doing and put it on the next level, implement campaigns completely from scratch, okay? And scale weekly based on these data reports, then feel free to reach out to me. It's simon.asman on Instagram or growinginfo.com to book in a free strategy call with me and have a chat about what your bottleneck in your business is right now. Now, with that being said, guys, everything we talk about here on this channel is scaling your coaching business, okay? So if you're new to this channel and you like what you've seen, feel free to leave a subscribe or a follow, right? Basically, and a like and share it with anyone who currently has some bottlenecks in his business, okay? And if you're already a subscriber, my friend, I will welcome you back very soon with another massive banger.